10 out of 10 nanoparticles, microchips.
Good morning, Dave.
How you doing, Heather?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Good, good. Are you hosting us today?
I am. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. I see that. What is that outdoor tree behind you?
That's my window.
Are leaves starting to form yet, or what?
Spring in Minnesota.
Well, there's
It's been
no,
really
there's
rainy the last couple days, but
well,
we're
there's no
getting
white,
there. Green
there's
grass
no
at
white
least.
stuff on the ground. That's a good thing.
Exactly. We'll take it. The
So
weather's actually been
you're
pretty
going
beautiful
to-
this weekend. We were in the 70s and 80s, so.
Beautiful. So
Yeah.
you're going to give me the chance to share my screen, right?
Yes. Yep.
And make me a co-host or whatever.
All right. So you should now be able to share your screen.
Let me just check it and see. Yeah, we're good. And you will manage the mutes for us, right?
Yep. I'm on it.
Good, good. Because I found this is my 209th Zoominar.
Oh, that's it?
Since last March, 209.
Goodness.
Believe that, across Keller Williams. It's been wonderful.
Good.
Been a wonderful
Well,
opportunity.
We
And
appreciate
so-
you and your time today. So thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you and the leadership and Todd and the team, and for you arranging it. Thank you on behalf of the leaders. I have great respect for all of you. You know, you really, it was interesting when I reconnected with Keller Williams back in 2 years ago, and I called Gary and we got together and he invited me to start coming to regional director meetings, and I got reconnected. My first training event was for you guys. Was for Todd, and Steve Highland was the coordinator of it at the time.
Park?
What's that?
Is that the one in Brooklyn Park?
Yeah. Yes.
I was there.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Hi, Andrew. How are you, sir?
Dave, how you doing? I just got audio.
I'm good. I'm doing good. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me here. I deeply appreciate that. I love the leadership team that you guys have put together.
Well, thank you. We're honored to have you, and really appreciate your time this morning. This is going to be fantastic.
This will be fun. This will be fun. This is a good one. I will tell you, it's interesting. You know, as I've gone across the Keller Williams system in the last year, it's really interesting how agents are just absorbing the kind of fundamental wisdom of what Keller Williams brings to the table. You know, that's one of the things. I mean, we have the newest stuff. We have all the new technology, command, all that stuff. But fundamentally, what this business is built on are the things that we wrote about in MREA and Shift, and that's what makes it happen. So we're gonna reconnect with some of that stuff today.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, I know never lack hanging out with.
Whoops, you're breaking up on me. I don't know, maybe it's my son. I can't hear you.
No, Andy, yeah, you're breaking out.
Yeah.
Nope. I said I never lack energy, Dave, after hanging around with you for a while.
Well, it's really funny. We call our offices market centers, but I really think we should call them energy centers. Because one of the
Yes.
secrets of Keller Williams that
Like
other
that.
companies don't understand is that we're a source of energy for our agents. Our agents can come, plug in, power up, and go after their goals with all of the support and training and technology and everything they need to be successful is right here, because that's our commitment. Our commitment is to our agents. And so our energy centers make a big difference, and leaders like you bring that energy too.
Well, bless your heart.
Yeah, thank you. But do you want me to just dive in, get started? I'm on Mo Anderson.
I think so. We'll have people. Yeah, we'll have people joining us. So that's perfect,
That's fine.
Dave. This
That's
is your
fine.
show.
Okay.
You go.
Because I believe in what Mo Anderson taught me, which she said, Dave, you honor the people that are here on time, and you start when you said you would. You have no judgment about people who show up later. That's their decision. They're dealing with their life. So it's not like some sort of thing you're going to be critical about, but we honor the people that are here. So thank you. And I just want to thank Heather for putting this together, and for Andy and Todd and my good friend Steve Highland and everyone who's been supportive of bringing this here. And let me tell you what I want to do in this next hour. We're going to go about an hour and 15 minutes of presentation, and then 15 minutes or so of Q&A or anything that anyone else wants to bring up. If you have questions, you can chat them in during it, and then we'll have them there. And Andy or Heather will ask those to me when we get to the end of this. But let me just kind of get focused on this. So today's topic is magic comes in threes. Now, just kind of to be familiar, I know a lot of you may not know who's Dave Jenks. Well, Dave Jenks has been in the real estate business 30 years. I began with Century 21 in upstate New York. I became a training director of them for three states, then a regional director. Then they moved me to Texas to become a divisional president of Century 21 South Central States, out of Dallas for 7 states. And I watched this little company. I got there just as it was reformulating itself. And I watched it grow. I watched it become dominant in Austin and start to spread. And I'm a student of any game I play. So I looked at what was happening and I said, wow, that's the future of real estate. If I were going to invent a real estate company, it wouldn't be like this big corporate brand driven company, Century 21, that I was with, even though we were #1 in the world in the real estate business at the time. I said, it would be like this company that I see Gary Keller putting together, focused on agents, focused on training, focusing on agents keeping most of the money, and then also running a smart business model that has profit share at the back end of it, which I thought was brilliant. So I was I kind of paid attention. Well, wasn't it neat that 4 years later, I get a call from Mo Anderson, and she says, Dave, Gary and I would like you on our team. We think you know more about real estate franchising than anyone else that we know in the industry. And we love the way you communicate and train with agents, and we want you on the team. So I joined the team, and we started to build Keller Williams University. And there's 2 things that I want to lay on the table right at the beginning of this. And the first one is that your future is never determined by where you've been or where you are, but where you intend to go. See, we were this little 2,000 person company in Austin, mostly, a little bit in in Texas, in Oklahoma, a little bit just starting in Colorado. And yet our vision was that we would become the real estate company of choice, that we would have the best agents and the best owners, and we would change the industry and we would become its leader. That was our vision with that, and we went from 2,000 to 72,000 and now 172,000, #1 in the world in real estate, and 40% larger than the #2 company. And I say that because the message to you is, get clear about your future, get clear about what you want to accomplish in real estate, and that will be part of what makes it happen. That is part, honestly, of the magic. And the second thing is, I want to honor you for being here, because one of the things that Gary Keller and I said to each other as we were building Keller Williams University is what differentiates high achievers in real estate from the others. And it was that they're learning based, that they spend more time going to training, getting educated. And first of all, when they have an opportunity to connect with and hear from a real estate industry expert and author like Dave Jenks, then they're going to make sure that they drop everything else and they're there, because this is a unique opportunity. So thank you for being here, but also for the commitment you're making to your own career. See, modern psychologists say there are two kinds of people in achievement industries. There's growth oriented and there's stability oriented. And growth oriented people believe they can expand their knowledge, increase their skills, and improve their attitudes. Whereas stability people say, I am who I am, what you see is what you get, telling it like it is, doing the best with what I got. And it kind of takes the pressure off of them, but it also means they're not high achievers. They don't get, in general, better outcomes. It's the ones who are growth oriented. So I want to honor you. You're growth oriented. So this topic is interesting. Magic comes in threes. Early in my career, one of my mentors was a gentleman by the name of Floyd Wickman. He started the Sweat Hog program. He still is a great trainer in the real estate industry. And he said, Dave, magic comes in threes. He said, if you're a salesperson, represent what you do in threes. People remember threes. If you say, I took a class, what were the three things I learned from it? Your mind will give you those three things. If you're making a presentation, decide what are the three things I want to convey to people, and they will remember those. If you read a book, what were the three ideas I got? He said, there's something magical about threes, and it's true in kind of all parts of the world. And he said, you know, like, for example, in real estate, we say to sellers, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, my job is to get you the most money in the least time with a minimum of inconvenience to you. He said, it's a powerful triple. It's been there for decades, but it never loses its power. And for buyers, we say, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, my job is to get you a home you'll love that's affordable in the right amount of time and with a minimum of inconvenience to you. Magic comes in threes. Now it comes in threes in other parts of our life. We all know the secrets to personal health: nutrition, exercise, and rest. We already know that. Now, the hard thing is making that work in our life. That's the application part, but we know it. We know that you eat good, healthy, balanced diet, get your vitamins and nutrients, make sure you don't get too many calories. And then exercise is burn off those calories, get regular exercise 3 or 4 times a week for maybe a half an hour, do some weightlifting, because exercise is good for the body. And then, of course, rest. And a lot of people short circuit themselves on the rest. They don't get their 7.5 or 8.5 hours of sleep every night. And when you minimize your rest, here's what you do. You eat more and you exercise less. So rest is an important part of that, but nutrition, exercise, and rest. We know the founding of this great American, free market democratic republic that we're a part of. What a powerful country we are a part of. We're proud of it, but it's the wisdom of its organization by those founding fathers to commit to individual life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Big three launched one of the most powerful societies in the history of the world and been emulated by so many others. And of course now is at risk because there's other political interests that are trying to erode that, but still honor the founding. And then I'm kind of a science geek, so I just think of that we're in a 3-dimensional universe, talk about power of threes, that consists of everything is made up of atoms. All matter is made up of atoms. They ask the great physicist Richard Feynman, what one thing could you say about the universe that would be true? And he said, everything is made of atoms. Interesting. And atoms are all made of 3 particles: protons, neutrons, and electrons. Protons and neutrons in the nucleus, electrons going around them. Every bit of matter is a combination of that, right? Interesting. And all time consists of 3 phases: past, present, future. Remember I said, your future is not determined by your past or your present, but the image and the vision you have for your future. So power comes in threes. And this is a big one Gary and I dealt with as we were building Keller Williams University. We said, we're part of the second creation. The first creation was God creating this universe, creating biological life, evolving it into humans with human consciousness. And we are crafted in the image of God. And so we are creative. We're the second creation. We are empowered to be creative. We create and manifest new things. We cause things to be here that weren't true before. And how do we do it? There's a 3-step process: thought, word, and deed. That's why all our books begin with how you think, because first you get it in your mind. That's the creative internal part. First, you get clear about your goals and your methods and your ways and what you want and how you want things to turn out. So it all begins with thought. Our books began with thinking, our thought. Then you convert it to words, written goals, statements, things you say to people, scripts and dialogues. So you take your thought, your intention, create it, turn it into word, and then you act on it, deed. And now you change the world, everything in the world. I mean, we're a part of amazing things that 100 years ago, if people looked at our world today, they would not believe. They would think it was magic, what's been created in our world today. But it all came from people thinking and then getting those thoughts in writing or saying them and then converting them to deeds. That's our secret in real estate too, by the way. First we think it, then we put it into words, and then we put it into our action and deeds. And Keller Williams is built on 3 fundamentals. Our value system, it's God, family, and then business, we say, right? So we're not a religious organization, and we're not promoting one religion. As you know, if you've been to Mo's inspirational morning at family reunion, she has representatives of 5, 6, or 7 of the largest religions in the world come and open the session with prayers. So we just believe that your own relationship with your higher power, with your God, with your sense of meaning is important, because it gives you a sense of purpose. It gives you one of your big whys, and it guides you in your value system. So your relationship with God, very important. Number 2, your family, your loved ones. Who's counting on you? Who are you around? But one of the things that people don't understand about the power of Keller Williams is we are a family. We call it family reunion. We believe that our relationships with each other are so important for encouragement, for training, for support, for helping others overcome difficulties. KW Cares is a real symbolic of that, but we do it even every day in every market center. We help each other out. Why? Because we have this feeling of family. So it's God, it's family, and then it's business, but it's still one of the big 3, right? It's your spirit, your love, and your work. So business is your work, and it's where you use your God-given talents to serve others and get, as Gary says, get paid for it and fund your purpose in life, fund your mission in life. Zig Ziglar said, you will get what you want in direct proportion to the number of people who you help get what they want. So first we help others get what they want, but that helps us get what we want. That's the nature of our work, giving our gift, our God-given gifts back to the world through our service. So it's God, family, and then business, right? And then just remember this, with all the technology and all the big corporate players that are trying to get in the game now, it always happens in a bubbled real estate market. All the new players think they can reinvent real estate and do it a new way and all that stuff. And here's what I want you to remember, and Keller Williams is built on this. We said early in the game, real estate is a local business driven by individual real estate agents with their local reputation and relationships. Powerful, right? So real estate is and remains a local business, and it's based on 3 things: relationships, reputation, and trust. It's who you know and who knows you, and who, when they think of real estate, thinks of you. It's your reputation, as more and more people get to see you putting signs out there, getting listings, doing business, and word of mouth spreads. You get it. And then ultimately, everything in real estate is built on trust. When you ask buyers and sellers what's the most important characteristic you want in your agent, it's trustworthiness. I want to be able to trust them. So focus all your work on building your relationships. We're going to talk about that later. Increasing your reputation as a great real estate agent, and then always putting out there that you are the most trusted person to help somebody buy or sell real estate. And then there's really 3 things to focus on right now, and I want to get down to this. See, I think our time in real estate should be divided about 1/3 each for these 3 priorities. I just think, and I think agents get out of balance in terms of how they allocate their time. So I think it's whether you put in 30 hours a week, 40 hours a week, 50, 60, 70, whatever your commitment of time is to the business, divvy it up into 3s. 1/3 is serving the business that's there now, your buyers and sellers, showing them homes, getting their homes sold, doing your listing appointments. all of that activity in right now helping real estate transactions happen. A third of your time, by the way, without any leverage, you can do one a week by giving it a third of your time, because the research we've done said that the time you spend with a buyer or seller from the time you meet them till the time their deal closes is about 12 hours on average, about 12 hours of time. So you can, that's one third of a week. So you can do one a week. Now with leverage, you can do more than that. You can do 2 a week or 3 a week. And that's what MREA is about. We'll talk about that in a second. So one third of it is doing the business that's there today, dealing with the market that's there today, and preparing for the one that's coming. See, that's why it's great to be in Keller Williams, because you always have the sense of what's coming next ahead of everybody else. And so play the game you're in, prepare for the one that's coming, because as we say in Shift, the real estate business is a cyclical business. It goes up and down, sellers markets, buyers markets, all of them have their own little conditions. Right now we're dealing with a heavy duty sellers market, low inventory, all that stuff, but each market has its challenges and we just meet them. So market there. Number two is its lead generation. We've been saying for decades in Keller Williams, one third of your time is lead generation. And if you go to page 79 of the book Shift, it'll tell you what to do with your 3 hours a day. We say 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, it's lead generation. And the fundamental of it is your database is your business, because it's built on what? Relationships and reputation. So you have to get the relationships building, meaning you have to put people into your database and them so that you can communicate with them. And then whenever they think of real estate, they think of you. And the database is not just a mailing list or email lists or phone numbers or whatever. It is a content about people. Let me give you a little bonus session that isn't in any of our books, or as far as I know, isn't on KW Connect. And it's from Gary Gentry. Gary Gentry was the guy who closed the first sale ever in the history of Keller Williams back in 1983. And he's still a top agent. He and his wife, Melanie, run a great team down in Austin. Gary Gentry, one of our icons. And he said, Dave, I've built my business on database, just like you and Gary say. Your database is your business. Mine is my business. And I have a relationship referral-based business, and it all comes out of my database. But he said, here's the mistake agents make. They don't do what you say. You say it's about capture, connect, and convert. The 3 C's of building a database: capture, connect, and convert. And he said, the mistake I made at the beginning was I wasn't capturing it. I can learn more, Gary said, in a half an hour with somebody. I ask great questions. They trust me. I listen carefully. I ask probing questions. I will learn more about them maybe than even their best friends know about them. But he said, here's the thing. When I leave that appointment in 20 minutes or a half hour, half of it's gone. And by the end of the day, maybe 80% of it's gone from my memory. And if I see them tomorrow, I might not even remember their name. So here's what you have to do. He said, you have to capture that information. So after every appointment, when I get to know all these things about them, I take my smartphone, I hit record, and in 2 or 3 minutes, I download everything I learned about them. Okay, obviously their name, but where they came from, what schools they went to, where they work, their children's names, their spouse's name, their recreational interests, what their plans are for the future, and any promises I made to them. I get that all down. I do it verbally, because he said I'm a verbal person. I don't write things down. So I do this. I send that file to my assistant, and they upload all that information into my command database. Now he said that's capture. Now that's a big first step. If you don't capture, then you don't have it. And here's the perfect time to capture it, right when you got it. He said, now here's the magic though. He said, I call them back. And I always call them back on follow-up. I'm either doing business or thanking them for meeting with me. And of course, up on the screen in front of me is all their personal information. So I say, hey, Mary, how's your boy Jim doing down at Texas A&M? Yeah, great. And your dog Scotty, did that all get taken care of at the vet? Great. And that little problem you were having with Mr. Smith at work, get that worked out? Wonderful. And we have this wonderful conversation. And I know everything about them, and we're bonded. He said, we're bonded. Now here's the next part. He said, it's the connect and convert. I convert that information after I've called them 2 or 3 times, and I always update their file again verbally after every meeting. Any new thing I learned, I fire that off to my assistant, and it comes up into the database. But he said, after I've had 2 or 3 calls with them, that information is now being converted into my mind. I now know them and I know their details because I've had that repetition. And so now I'll see them in a restaurant, or I'll see them out, at the supermarket, and I can go right into a conversation about them. I certainly know their name. I know all their kids' names, all that stuff. And so I am their realtor for life. That's the thing to remember. But he said, if you build your database, and that's important, remember, but you need to capture, connect, and convert. So little hint from Gary about building your database. Now, 1/3 of your time, and on page 79 of the book Shift, we tell you what to do with that 3 hours. It's not just making phone calls. It's more skilled than that, right? There's other things you do. Then the final 1/3 of your time, and this is where a lot of agents cut it short, particularly new agents, is your own self-development. It's building your skills as a high performer. I mean, people come to Gary and I and they say, it's not, this is real estate, it's not rocket science. And we go, oh, yes, it is. Done at the highest level, real estate is rocket science. It's brain surgery. What you have to know is immense. The skills you have to build are unusual that most people can't do. And the disciplines you have to build in your life are really, really tough. And so this is not an easy game to play. A lot of people think they can come into real estate and wing it on personality and enthusiasm. I'm sorry, nothing wrong with a great personality, nothing wrong with enthusiasm, but it will not get you there. Competence is what gets you there. And we play a competitive sport. And to play a competitive sport, you have to have confidence. And the way you gain confidence is not just self-affirmation and positive self-talk and all that. That's good stuff, but it won't build true confidence. What builds confidence is competence. Remember that. Competence leads to confidence, and that's what you have to devote time to. There's a wonderful book called The Warrior Elite by Dick Couch. It's about the training and development of Navy SEALs, special forces, and in addition to the 6 weeks of difficult training it takes to qualify, once you have your trident, you're a Navy SEAL, you spend you spend 18 months training for every 6 months in the battlefield. 18 months training for every 6 months. We know professional athletes spend hours and hours and hours working on their skills, hitting golf balls, taking shots, taking batting practice, whatever it is, compared to the amount of time they spend in the game. And great actors and actresses, are practicing their scripts and rehearsing and memorizing things so that they can then go in front of the camera, in front of the audience and do that. So all highly competitive and challenging sports require constant improvement of your skills, knowledge and skills. So 1/3 of your time, I think for your whole career, 1/3 of your time is spent on your own knowledge and skills. Now let's take a look at what that means. We get paid for 3 areas in our life: knowledge, skills, and attitudes. I learned this in the Dale Carnegie Institute. We said, in real estate or in any business, your success will be based on the knowledge you have of that industry, the skills you build appropriate to that industry, and the attitude you have going in and that sustain you through it. So let's take a look at real estate. What are the 3 things we get paid for? Our knowledge of contracts, finance, and property evaluation. These are not easy to get. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, by the time we get to the end of this transaction, there will be 75 or 85 pages of legal and financial documents that I will review on your behalf because I'm a master of real estate contracts. And I will make sure that they're filled out accurately, no mistakes, no one's trying to take advantage of you, and you can feel confident in signing those documents and we can go to closing. Why? Because I'm a master of real estate contracts. So you want to be able to talk like that. I had an agent tell me about 2 months ago, she said, I'm so glad you covered that because I really am good with contracts. I'm good with the details and I know financing and I'm great at evaluating property. But I sort of thought when I went on a listing appointment that those were just givens. And I was taught, that I had to tell about my track record and how many sales I did. And she said, I realized, no. These fundamental knowledge I have is one of my greatest assets as a real estate agent. So work on it. Anything you can do to learn about contracts and addendums and disclosures and any of the legal procedures that are there now will build your competence and your confidence and also increase the amount of service you can give. So we're in a technical business, master it, contracts, financing. Most top agents say that new agents delegate financing too much to their mortgage officer. And sure, you do them for pre-quals and pre-approvals, and you do it for, obviously taking applications and underwriting, but your knowledge of financing options and how to qualify and what's best for which buyers and whether you can evaluate offers that come into your sellers based on your knowledge of finance. So you want to be a master of finance. And then the final one, and this is a big one, property evaluation. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm a master of property evaluation. I'm not a licensed appraiser, but I'm better than they are at predicting what homes will sell for. And more importantly, how to make your home more saleable at a higher price. I can do that for you because I'm a master of property evaluation. So you want to be able to say that. So you really need to know the market, know the trends, know what's happening with current pricing, be able to do a CMA virtually off the top of your head. I went with Mike Mendoza, top Keller Williams agent 3 years in a row back in the early days, but now is still a mega agent in Ahwatukee, Arizona. And I drove around the neighborhood with him and he could tell me virtually every house, last time it sold, what it sold for, what it would be worth now. Virtually every home, even the ones he hadn't sold. He just knew the marketplace, and he's an athlete. He's a golfer and he's a high social guy. You wouldn't think he would have that analytic knowledge, but he said, no, Dave, that's the game. I study the market. I know the market inside and out. So, by the way, we need somebody muted. Peter Heller, we need muted. We need somebody muted. Thank you. If you can manage the mutes for us, that would be great. So property valuation, really important for you to, now we had a thing back in the old days when we had Camp 443, this was before Ignite, and Gary and I built this class with our course writers for new agents called Camp 443. And he and I did a video intro to every one of those segments, recorded that. We had a little formula we recommended. It was called 10-5-15-5. We said, if you do 10-5-15-5, that's the formula, 10-5-15-5. If you do that 5 days a week, every week for 2 years, your success in real estate is guaranteed. And who knows how far you could take it. If you just follow that formula, what's it mean? It means add 10 new people to your database every day, however you do it, off directories, meet people you meet anywhere, everyone you meet, get their name, their best email address, their address, their phone number. Do that, have a little pad with you, make sure you do that everywhere you go. You take directories from neighborhoods or churches or whatever. Anyway, add 10 people a day to your database. Call 5 people that you know and remind them you're in real estate, and you leave them with, when you think of me, when you think of real estate, think of me, right? Because your success in real estate will be in direct proportion to the number of people who, when they think of real estate, think of you. It's called mind share. We cover this in MREA. We call it mind share. You have people's real estate mind share. In other words, when they think of real estate, they think of you. That's why you do all of the repetition of the mailings to them to remind them you're in real estate. So you call 5 people, remind them you're in real estate, say, by the way, good talking with you. When you think of real estate, think of Dave or think of me. And so we do that. So that's 10-5, then 15 thank you notes to either those people that you talk to or to someone who served you. And everyone who's a service provider to you, you should get their name, their email address, and they should be added to your database, and send a thank you note out to them, and then put them in your 8x8 program as we cover in MREA. It's such a consistent practice, right? So that's 10-5, 15 thank you notes. And then the final 5 is preview 5 properties. Either go physically and do it or do it digitally, but review all the homes, the 5 new homes a day that have come on the market. And then if you're a new agent, do your own CMA on that. Do either a quick one or go through as if you were doing a full one, and then compare the list price you would recommend to what it's listed for. And if the agents in your office, talk to them about what they did. But you want to become a master of understanding how to evaluate properties. Plus also, if you're paying attention to the new homes coming on the market, you will serve your buyers much better than anyone else. You can do what we write in Shift, and that is have a best buy list. Call Dave for his current best buy list. I keep an ongoing list of the best buys in the market right now. Now that's really good to do in a buyer's market, not so you don't have a lot of time in a seller's market like we're in now. So anyway, so these are the 3 things. Spend time on mastering contracts, finance, and property evaluation. It will build your competence. It will increase your confidence. You will do more business. Promise you that. Number two, there's three fundamental big skills you have to develop. Number one, lead generation, asking for and attracting business. Number two, making effective sales presentations. And number three, getting good at negotiating win-win agreements. Those are three incredibly difficult, challenging skills. And let's focus on the first one, asking for business. You know, Linda McKissick, wonderful icon in Keller Williams. But the thing to remember with her is she was failing out of real estate in 1991, failing out, ready to leave. She'd only done 15,000 in an average of commissions a year. She was ready to leave it. But then she said, Dave, I learned one secret thing that I didn't know, and I'll share that with you. But here's her life. 8 years later, here's what her life looks like in real estate. The McKissick Group, our systems are your solution. That was their cut phrase. Linda was its owner. They did 352 closed transactions that year. She had 4 admins, 5 buyer specialists, 2 listing specialists, and a manager. She wasn't even managing it. She was its owner. That's what Gary and I call the 7th level, right? Where you own a real estate business that you've built under your brand and your systems and your reputation. And now you are its owner, like Linda. 8 years she did that. And she said, here was what kicked it off, Dave. I learned I could ask for business. Isn't that weird? She said, I was waiting for business to come to me, doing passive things, doing open houses, doing uptime. And she said, I realized that, no, if you're going to succeed, and she said, I went to a seminar and learned that you need to proactively go ask for business. Now, I wasn't very good at it at the beginning. And here's what I needed to learn, she said. I needed to learn to ask for business and not be attached to the answer. See, I was too worried about what they were going to say, but then I learned that's not the game. Asking is the game. If I ask, a lot of people are going to say no, not now, not interested, hang up on me. Some people will say yes, come over for an appointment, or yes, we'd like to list with you. She said, the game is to get to the yeses, and the only way to get to the yeses is through the no's. And she said, I realized, for example, that I'm a sports fan, and I realized that if a Major League Baseball player goes to bat 10 times and makes 7 outs, what are they? They're an all-star. They're a multimillionaire, maybe Hall of Fame. Why? Because they're a 300 hitter. So she said, I realized there's some sports where there's more failure short-term than there is success, but you get paid more for the successes. You just have to hang in and take your at-bats, right? So she said, I learned that. She said, for example, here was my life early in real estate, 100 phone calls a week. I would get to talk to 30, 35 people. That would lead to maybe 4 or 5 appointments. And then I would take 2 or 3 listings. Well, that's a lot of work to get to the 2 or 3 listings, a lot of no's and things that didn't work out. But she said, taking 2 or 3 listings a week launched my career. That got my momentum going, got the money going. Now, then she said, I learned how to attract business. And that's chapter 4 of the book Shift. She said, I learned how to do billboards. I learned how to get out just listed, just sold cards. I learned how to do farming so that now I attracted business to me. So I still went out and asked for it, but then I also learned how to attract business to me. And those 2 skills built my business to the top, right? So that's the master skill right there, lead generation, asking for and attracting business. But it's a skill you have to build and be committed to, because there's a set of skills of how to do it. Then, speaking of skills, the next one, making effective sales presentations. I remember going to a big seminar by Mike Ferry in Scottsdale, Arizona, over 2,000 people in the room. And he got up in front, and many of you know Mike Ferry teaches scripts and dialogues and how to do prospecting and all of that. And he got up in front of the room and he said, we get paid in real estate for 3 skills: prospecting, presenting, and closing. Which of those 3 do you think is most important? And he said, how many think it's prospecting? Well, I mean, it's Mike, that's what he teaches. Every hand in the place went up. And he went, no. How many think it's closing, being really good at answering all their questions and getting their trust and getting them to sign? And, maybe half the hands went up. He went, nope, it's presenting. Because he said, until you have mastered your listing presentation, you won't prospect. You won't have the confidence. You won't know your value proposition. You won't know how to articulate it. You won't know how to answer their questions. You won't know how to deal with it, and therefore you won't prospect, and you won't get many appointments. And if you do get appointments, if you don't have a good listing presentation, you may not get the listing. So he said the key to real estate success is mastering your listing presentation. We're going to do that together. We are on July 28th. Why List with Me? We're going to do a wonderful Zoominar just like now on why list with me and how to master your listing presentation. It'll be powerful, but you need to do the work to master that presentation, to get really good at articulating your value proposition and getting people to say yes, of course, to list with you. So that's number two. Takes time to build that skill. Promise you, doesn't happen accidentally. None of these skills happen accidentally. And the final one is learning how to negotiate win-win agreements. And that really is fundamentally built on the Keller Williams Y4C2Ts, the rules of engagement in getting people to be cooperative and work together. It's win-win or no deal, right? It's seek first to understand. Customers always come first. Do the right thing. All of this is about getting a win-win agreement with people. Master those skills. Master those skills. So 3 areas of skill. I tell you what, most people don't have these skills. Most people don't, and they struggle developing them. They're not easy skills to build, but they're worth it because that is what takes your business to the highest possible level. 3 skills. And then there's 3 attitudes. You know, every book that Gary and Jay and I wrote began with how you think like a millionaire real estate agent, how you think like a millionaire real estate investor, how you think in the terms of dealing with shifted markets, the 12 tactics of top agents in tough times. All of that is about how you think matters. And most people know this. They know you need to have a positive mental attitude, but it's deeper than that. And I think here are the 3 fundamental attitudes of high achieving agents. Number 1 is they are people of intention. They make things happen. They get things done. They have goals. They have they know what they want. They know why they want it. They know how they're going to get it. They know the methods, right, of getting what they want. And Gary Keller says, if your goals don't hit your calendar, you're not serious about them. So they know when they're going to do it. They time block to get things done. A lot of people would ask us, how did you guys, you were building this little real estate company, you only had 4,000 or 5,000 agents, you aspired to go more, you were trying to add new people, you were training new people, you were building new systems. How did you guys get the chance to write the best-selling book in the history of real estate? Over 1.4 million copies sold, still number 1 on Amazon.com today. How did you write that? And my answer to them always was Tuesdays with Gary. And then, what do you mean? Every Tuesday afternoon from 1 to 4, Gary, Jay, and I got together to work on the book every Tuesday for 3 hours. 10 months later, we had written the best-selling book in the history of real estate. That's what happens when you set aside time blocking for your biggest challenges. That's why we say 3 hours a day of lead generation, your success is guaranteed. Page 79 of Shift tells you what to do in those 3 hours, but be a person of intention. Have your 135. Have your 411. And then, as Gary said, the key to accomplishment is accountability. So you know what you want, you know why you want it, your payoff, you know when you're going to do it, you know how you're going to do it. And more important than that, you have accountability to keep you on track, right? So intention, you're a person of intention. Number 2, optimism. I want you to write down the name of a very famous psychologist. His name is Martin Seligman, Seligman, Dr. Martin Seligman. And he was the president of the American Psychological Association. And in 1998, he got up in front of their annual convention as their president and said, we have spent decades understanding and studying mental disease, mental disorder, and it's now time for us to focus on mental health and mental accomplishment. And he said, I'm forming a movement called positive psychology, and that's what we're going to do. And one of his early books, his first book was called Learned Helplessness, how people become victims, how they become helpless in their life. And he asked himself, what's the opposite of that? And he realized when he'd studied it, it was optimism. So he wrote a book. It's a powerful book, highly recommended to you, called Learned Optimism. And he said, optimists are not Pollyannas. They just believe they can make a difference, that they can change the outcome. They can do better. They can solve things. They can change the outcome. They can get the outcome they want. They believe in their own power to make a difference. That's what makes them an optimist. And in his book, he talks about what it's like to build an optimistic attitude. But he said the world is led by and built by optimists. So number one, intention. Number two, optimism. And the third one is because, as Linda said, this is a tough game. Gary Keller said, you fail your way to success. Most high achievers in real estate will deal with more short-term failures than anybody else. But it leads to the successes that build on top of one another, and that leads to long-term success. But it's that mental toughness, it's that resilience, that tenacity, that persistence. We know that persistence, but by the way, and we're going to talk about it at the end of our time together, how to build your mental toughness, how to get more resilient in your work, how to stay calm in the chaos, how to be a person of persistence, right? It makes a big deal. It makes a big deal. So here we have knowledge, skills, and attitudes. That's the name of our game. Now, Keller Williams is a company built on the power of threes. It's a magical company. It's not, being number one in the world doesn't make it the best. Being the best has made it number one, and it has not happened by accident. It's come out of the intentionality of its leaders, Gary, Mo, and I originally, and then we added Mark and others, Mary, other people into the game. And of course, now it's a powerful leadership team that's getting even more powerful every day and building the kind of platform agents are going to need to succeed in the next 10 years. But the fundamentals go back to it. We have a powerful MVVBP. We know our mission, our vision, our values, our beliefs, and our perspective. That's what MVVBP stands for. And so we know our mission: to build careers worth having, businesses worth owning, and lives worth living. That was the triple we began with. I know a couple have been added, but that's the fundamental triple of knowing why we exist, our mission. And then our vision was to become the real estate company of choice. For whom? The best agents, the best owners, and the best clients. Three again, right? And our value system: God, family, and then business. And then our belief system, which is really the Y4C2Ts, now added a 10th one in there with the E, equity, opportunities for all, powerful addition to it. So the Y4C2Ts is a wonderful thing to remember as a guidance system in your life. And then perspective: we know who we are. We think like a top producer, and we act like a trainer, consultant, and technology company. We believe we are a training, consulting, and technology company, cleverly disguised as a real estate franchise system, right? But we provide all those things to the people that are in us. Our agents do the real estate. We provide the power to do that. And then, of course, there are 7 models. I'm not going to go into them right now, but I taught them for 12 years for franchise systems orientation. I taught every new OP, every team leader, and every MCA what our 7 foundational models are. And no other real estate company comes even close to our proven ability to deliver on all 7 of those foundational models. It's just, people think they can imitate part of our company like profit share or training, or technology, and they can't. They don't even come close to what we do, and then add all 7 together, and it's an unstoppable power. And then finally, as we move into this new age of technology, we have built the fundamentals. We say your database is your business. Well, we have the world's best real estate database, Command. You can run teams off of it. You can do lead generation off of it. We've got all the marketing tools in there to do your 33 touch, your 8x8s, your 12 directs. All of that is in Command already and developed, and then programs that other agents are using of how to do that. And then we have a consumer tie into this, so the consumer is linked to you as an agent. So the point of it is that is fundamentally agent-focused technology that makes the difference. So just understand that this is the company you're with, the most muscle that you can have behind you in this business. Now, here's the second thing I want to do. This was the first perspective on how to gain competence in the business. The second one is to use the tools that are there. And so we wrote 3 fundamental books as a gift to the real estate industry, also as a guide to our agents, but as a gift to the real estate industry, because we love, Gary and Jay and I love the real estate industry. We think it's the most competitive, the most open, free market, and free enterprise system that exists. That also makes it a tough game to play because it's so highly competitive, so many people trying to be successful. So you have to do what we've just been talking about to get in that top 20%, right? It's 20-80. 20% of the people will do 80% of the business, and then 20% of those people, the top 4% will do 80% of that business. And so you want to get in that top 5 to 1%. Here's how you do it. We wrote the books to do it, and they're very focused. And a lot of people somehow, because they've been around for a while, just sort of, oh yeah, I know it. Oh yeah, I've got a copy of it. Yeah, but no, you need to read it. You need to understand it. There is magic in these books. I want to share kind of a detail with you, if I can right now. And I've put this together for our time together. And what I want to say to you as I put this up here is that I will send you all the slides that I've got in this presentation, plus 3 other documents. This one, the detailed outline of the magical pages of MREA. I have a similar one for Shift. And I have my top 10 books for dealing with adversity, because mental toughness is important. And I'll cover this a little later, but it's Dave's top 10 books for personal development and dealing with challenges, right? So I'll send you all of that. Here's what you have to do. Write this down, dave@kw.com, dave@kw.com. Just write me and give me 3 ahas from this session. And we're not even done yet. So 3 ahas from this session, send it to dave@kw.com, and I will within a day send you all the slides and those 3 other documents that I promised, okay? So let me tell you how we wrote this book. We wrote this book for fast-moving high achievers, not for people who are scholars and sit down and read books in a cubicle. So these books were meant for fast-moving people who like to get things quickly. So there's a lot of eye candy, open space, headlines, cartoons, graphs, charts, inserted quotes, things that make it interesting to read. And they're meant to be flipped through. In fact, your desk should have MREA and Shift next to each other, right on the front of the desk, up at the top of it. Coil bound, go to FedEx, get it coil bound so they lay flat and you can flip through it really easily. So they should there, and then MREI over on the side to remind yourself of why real estate is such a powerful investment. And if you want to get into dealing with investors, that book is your guide, of course. But MREA and Shift are the guide to your business. And so when we wrote it for you. See, we believe in getting things quickly. I'm a scanner. When it comes to business books and personal development books, I scan them. I don't like to sit down and read them paragraph by paragraph. It doesn't feel like a good use of my time. And most authors take way too many pages to write their book than they need to. So I believe in scanning. In fact, let me give you a couple of sites for that have just come out recently. They're really wonderful. There's a site called Blinkist.com, Blinkist, Blinkist.com, Blinkist, Blinkist. And what they've done is they've taken 1,000 books or more and they've condensed them down into a 15-minute read. In other words, here's the fundamental ideas in this book, 15 minutes, you can read it, or a 15-minute audio that you can download and put in your car and listen to on your way to an appointment. So you can get a whole book in 15 minutes. It's powerful and it's really well done. It's called Blinkist.com. Now I found another site just when I was using that called 12min.com, 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 and it stands for 12 minutes. So they've taken another set of books, not the same set, and they've reduced them to 12-minute, a 12-minute read, if you want to read it online or on your screen, or a 12-minute audio download you can listen to. Both of those sites, they both have a subscription charge, but it's not that much, really worth it. But you can get all kinds of perspective and information very quickly. So MRA is built that way. And what I've done here, first of all, understand that the page 15 to 18 is a table of contents that is brilliant. It just has all of you can see the whole book on 4 pages. You can flip through it and get a whole idea of the book and the career. But then I'm giving you here, and I will send to you what I call the magical pages. So page 71 are the 9 ways an MREA thinks. Page 95 is a listing presentation and a buyer presentation on 1 page. We'll cover that when we do our listing, but go to it. It's a listing presentation. You could go in and just take a photocopy of page 95 and read it to a prospective seller, and it would be better than 95% of all listing presentations they'll ever get, because you're really telling them what you're actually going to do, which most agents don't do. Page 122, it's the whole game. It's taking the 4 models, right? The economic model, the lead generation model, the budget model, and the organizational model of the millionaire real estate agent on 1 page in a graph. You could make a big poster of that, put it over your desk, and remind yourself of how you are following the 4 models. And then, of course, there's a whole section on your database is your business, and how to gain mind share and how to build that database in your inner circles of advocates who send you referrals. And then page 196 to 203 is the whole path to leverage, the 7 pages, how to go from you doing it to having a group of people who help you do it, leverage, right? First 2 are admins, and then you start to work on your buyer side, and then your listing side, and then you're like Linda McKissick. You can step out and be the owner doing 300 transactions a year of a 7th level team. The path is all there, but the fundamentals of it are on those pages right there. And then there's the 5 steps to high achievement. So that is a wonderful document. And I want to show you one other one. And I did a similar thing. See, Shift, hang on a sec. I need to escape this. Yep, there we go. In Shift, we didn't do a thorough table of contents. It's only 1 page, the 12 tactics of top agents in tough times. However, that's what I've done here. 2 pages, a detailed outline of what those are. And here's the thing to remember. What is Shift? Well, we knew we had written a best-selling book with MREA. And 5 years later, we said, is it time for us to do a revised edition, an MREA 2 or a 2nd edition? And a lot of famous books do that. And we looked at it and said, well, there's nothing we changed. We corrected a few typos, but there was nothing we changed because it's all still fundamentally truth. But we said, what didn't we put into MREA? Well, what we didn't put in were the tactics, the sales tactics, the actual things you do, the way what you say when you lead generate, and how you convert someone, and how you help somebody, what you say to them to get them to price it right and stage it, and what you say to buyers to create a sense of urgency and making a decision without looking at a whole bunch more homes. And then chapter 12, how you keep the transaction together all the way from listing to contract to closing, what we call bulletproofing the transaction. So those chapters, so when you think of Shift, think of reading chapter 4 through 9 and then chapter 12. Chapter 4 through 9 and then 12. The rest is all about dealing with shifted markets, which is what was going on at the time, which is why it has the title it has. But it really is about the fundamental sales techniques of real estate. And those techniques work in every market condition there is. So chapter 4 is find the motivated, brilliant thing on how to make things happen, what to do in your 3 hours of lead generation every day, and how to do offer response marketing. So you put out messages that people respond to, you get into relationship, and then you get the listing or work with them as a buyer. And then there's the 6 connecting questions, how to convert your leads into appointments. And then there's the whole thing about the tale of 2 markets and how to get them to price it right. And then how to get them to stage it right. And then how to become the local economist of choice. So you have a local reputation and presence that other agents don't have. And then finally, how to keep the transaction together. So again, I'll send you this, a copy of this, a copy of the one for MREA, my top 10 books on dealing with adversity, and all the slides that we've done in this presentation. Okay, so I will do that for you. You have to earn it. See, this is it. No freebies. You have to earn it. I believe in that. No freebies. That's welfare. No. We're not going to just send it out to everybody. No, you have to earn it. And you do that by sending dave@kw.com an email. Give me 3 ahas, insights, wisdom, pieces of wisdom, any other comments you want to make on this presentation. Send that to me. And I will, within a day, get you all the things that I said that I would. Okay, so do that. dave@kw.com. All right, let's shift gears and get into this idea of mental strength and mental toughness and dealing with the challenges of this business. First of all, we have to deal with fear. A lot of people are afraid of how people respond to them, and something that's, that someone's going to not like what they do, or is going to judge what they do. We're all full of fear. And by the way, in this day and age we're in, one of the reasons I want to encourage you to become a person who really is confident in the face of fear is because the world needs more people like you. Right now, we're in a fear-based culture. It has gotten so amazing. And Michael Crichton wrote a wonderful book in 2004 called A State of Fear, The State of Fear. And he said, in our society, 3 big forces want us to be afraid: politicians, big business, and big media. And he said they all are sending out messages of fear, so we will vote for them, so we will buy their product or support their company, or that we will listen to their media and pay attention. So all of these messages coming at us, and we know it in this last year, it's been a fear-driven thing. And there are political people who benefit from people cowering and being afraid and being submissive. This country wasn't built on that. It was built on doing the right thing and taking responsibility in our lives. So here's the thing. There's 3 classic responses to fear, right? One is, the one we remember is fight, flight. The fight, flight response. Either we get angry, road rage, and strike out at it, or we avoid it, we fly away. Or the third one is freeze. We get locked like a deer in the headlights, and we don't move and can't do anything. A lot of us during this COVID time have gotten frozen. We don't know what to do. Okay, we say there's really 3 other F's: face, focus, figure it out. In other words, stay calm and face the fear. Go right into it, look at it, see it clearly, don't run from it. Face the fear. Then focus on what really could go wrong. Why am I afraid? What is the outcome I don't want? And then you figure out how to get past it. And as Susan Jeffers says in her book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, feel the fear, Susan Jeffers. When you get on the other side of fear, you look back and go, what was I afraid of? I can't believe I was afraid of that. There was nothing really to fear. And we say in MREI, money lies on the other side of fear. And I think we would say in general, success lies on the other side of fear. When you can overcome your fears and get past them, your confidence grows and your ability to take on new challenges grows. You become stronger. Now, here's the final thought on this that I say that I've learned in my life, and that is let fear be your compass. See, I think if you're afraid to do something, and I'm not talking physical dangers like walk on a cliff or walk out into a street. Those are physical fears, and it's okay to pay attention to those. But if we have an emotional fear, it's because we were meant to do it. If you have an emotional fear about something, it means you were meant to do it. Let it be a compass. Well, what do you mean, Dave? Well, why? Here's what the reason you're afraid is because you care about the outcome. You care about the outcome. That's what you're afraid of. You're afraid of calling it for sale by owner because you're afraid they'll get angry at you and hang up on you. You're afraid to give a speech in front of people because you're afraid you'll forget your words and make a fool of yourself and people will laugh at you, right? But you want to be a speaker and you want to teach and you want to have that confidence and you want to give a great listing presentation and you want to call for sale by owners to find the ones that want to say, yes, thank you for calling. And so fear really tells you what you should do. If you fear it, you were meant to do it. Let me give you a personal example. When I took the Dale Carnegie sales course, I came back and took it as a graduate assistant also. And then they asked me to become an instructor. They said, Dave, we think you'd be a great sales course instructor for Dale Carnegie. I had a full-time job, so this was kind of a hobby. And I said, well, okay, that sounds like fun. So I was co-teaching with others and I started memorizing all the stacks you needed to coordinate a session because you don't have any notes in front of you if you're instructing a Dale Carnegie class. It's all coming from your head and your heart. And so I started memorizing and practicing. And then the final thing I needed to do to get certified was to go teach a class for 3 weekends in New York City. And standing at the back of the room was a retired New York detective by the name of Dominic. And Dominic was the gatekeeper of Dale Carnegie instructors. In other words, if you didn't pass his test, you weren't going to be an instructor. He cared about the quality of the instructors. And I've always had a fear of being judged by others, particularly authority figures. So I knew he was going to be there, and I was afraid. And I went into the institute manager in Albany, New York, and I said, you know what? I've got too much on my plate. I've got a real job, the full-time job, and this is kind of a hobby. And I really realized I can't take 3 weekends away and go do that. And he said, Dave, I know you're afraid. What do you mean I'm afraid? Yeah, no, I know you're afraid. A little worried about this, but you're really good. You need to go. So I went. Well, it was three of the greatest peak experiences of my life. It went so well. I loved it. Got a high five from Dominic. He said, you're going to be good. And let me tell you this. If I had let that fear stop me, I wouldn't be here today. I would not be delivering this Zoominar to you. I would not have been with Keller Williams and written the best-selling books. I would have not helped that company grow. I would have not been even a divisional president of Century 21 or a regional director of Century 21 if I had let fear back then stop me. So don't let fear stop you. Let fear be your compass. If you're afraid of it, go do it. Now, one of the fun things, and your gang, Steve Highland and Todd and all that, were very supportive of bringing me in to do a face on before we had COVID training session up there in Minnesota while I was visiting my son Jeff and his family in Blaine. And I got to do this, and then that became the foundation for me being asked to speak at Family Reunion a year ago, 2020 Family Reunion, and do a breakout session. And they gave me the biggest room in the thing to do a thing called Light My Fire. And it was a great opportunity. And there was a room of 3,600 seats, and I'm behind the stage getting mic'd up and all that. And I figured when I got introduced, since I'd been away from Keller Williams for 10 years, doing other ventures, growing other companies, not real estate, and writing books and doing podcasts, that they'd introduce me and I'd come up on stage and there'd be like 300 people spread out all over these seats. But no, it was standing room only. In fact, they had to turn people away. It was a wonderful opportunity. But the title of it was Light My Fire, The Power of Self-Mastery. And that's the first of the 6 personal perspectives. When Gary and I got together and we were building Keller Williams University, Gary asked a wonderful question. He said, how do high achievers think differently than people who don't achieve at the highest level? And we spent several days putting this together, and we built the 6 personal perspective. These are the 6 ways that top achievers think differently. And number 1 was they're committed to self-mastery. They're mastering their own emotions, they're mastering their own habits, they're mastering their own skills, just like we talked about. And so as we were doing this, Gary made an interesting comment. He said, Dave, I come from a long line of lethargic people. He said, and that's why I need goals, I need accountability, I need time blocking. If I didn't have that, I wouldn't be a high achiever. And I went, whoa, what an interesting insight for him to say, look at the achiever that he is. And I said, well, that's interesting, Gary, because I come from a long line of depressed people. My grandfather spent the last 20 years in the nursing home, basically catatonic. My dad had mood swing issues, anger management, and negativity. And when I turned 30, I started to have cyclical depression. I had episodes of feeling down and out. The world looked dark, everything was, and it got so serious that in my late 30s, I almost committed suicide. I had a very bleak, dark time, and I almost committed suicide. Had a conversation with God, and I didn't, thank heaven. But I came out of that and said, okay, wait a minute. I need to master this emotional state. I am doing something that's causing anxiety and negativity and depression, and I need to find a way to change that. And I ran into a powerful book called Feeling Good by Dr. David Burns. Feeling Good. It's on that list of the 10 books I'm going to send you. And in it, he talked about the 10 ways that we internally talk to ourselves that create anxiety and negativity and depression. And I saw I could find five ways I was talking to myself that caused that. And so I stopped. I mean, I had to work at it, but I stopped. I could recognize when I was doing that. And I became a person of enthusiasm and energy and positivity. Anyone who meets and works with me will say, Dave is a positive guy. Sharon Gibbons used to tell staff, if you have a bad day, just go talk to Dr. Feelgood. Go talk to Dave. He's Dr. Feelgood. You'll come out of that feeling really good. So I am that kind of person, but I became that kind of person because I really studied this game of how it is we think to control our self-mastery of our attitude. And I call it light my fire. Let me take a minute. I know this isn't a 3, this is a 4, but it's an acronym, FIRE, F-I-R-E, and it stands for freedom, intention, resilience, and enthusiasm. And here's the quick look at it. Freedom means give yourself freedom in your life. And it comes from the book, The Greatest Miracle in the World by Og Mandino, where he gets a memo from God. And the memo says, I have created life to be abundant, and you can have whatever you want if you will do these 4 things. And here are the 4. Number 1, count your blessings. Well, there's the key right there. Whenever I'm feeling down, I count my blessings, including the challenge I'm facing, because I know there'll be a good thing comes out of it, right? So count your blessings. Number 2, affirm your uniqueness. God said, I've created you as to be a unique human being. Do it your way. Go your way. Don't try and imitate other people. Find your way to do things. Learn from others, yes, but don't feel the need to imitate or please others, right? Affirm your uniqueness. So count your blessings, affirm your uniqueness. And number 3, use your God-given power to choose. Be decisive. Choose things. Choose your goals. Decide what you want to eat, where you want to go, what restaurant. You can always change your mind, but be a person of decisive. Make decisions. You can change them later, but make decisions, be decisive, use your God-given power to choose. And the 4th one is not, it's really more part of R, and it is go another mile. Go another mile. Don't go the extra mile. That's an aspirational encouragement. No, just slog in there. Just keep one more step at a time, one step at a time. Just keep at it. The results will come. See, I think in real estate, there's a balance between urgency and patience. Urgency and patience. You want to be urgent about today's activities. Get at it. Get at your to-do list. Get at your lead generation. Get at your practicing your listing presentation. Get at it, but be patient about the results, because the results will come when the results come, and they will, and they power up. You know, it's like a 747 taking off the runway, a lot of power at the beginning, but it's right on the runway, and it picks up speed, still on the runway, a lot of power going, still on the runway, and then it reaches lift, and it gets lifts off, and then it can go amazingly steeply. That's how real estate careers work in my experience. It takes a lot of energy at the front end and patience about the outcome. Okay, so go another mile. I remember coming out of Alcoholics Anonymous, right? I had to get rid of my dependency on alcohol, went to Alcoholics Anonymous, 90 meetings in 90 days. And we had these little silver chips that we carried that said, one day at a time. In other words, I wasn't committing to sobriety for my life. I was committing to sobriety for one day at a time. I would do it one day, and then another day, and then another day. And of course, here I am, 21 years later of sobriety. Wonderful, one day at a time. Now, so that's freedom, right? Count your blessings, affirm your uniqueness, use your God-given power to choose, give yourself freedom, live in gratitude. Then I is intention. We've been through that. Be a person of intention. Know what you want, know why you want it, know how you're going to do it, when you're going to do it, and have accountability built in. Be a person who is on purpose. By the way, when you have goals and you're going after them, you won't get down on yourself. You will be active, you will be energetic, you will be watching things move. There's no room in there for negativity and depression. It really sort of pushes it to the side. And then resilience, and that is become a person. I once had a top agent say to me, I want to be the calmest person in the transaction. Thought that was wonderful. What a self-statement. I want to be the calmest person in the transaction. And so learning how to deal with difficulty is important. My wife, Gina, and she works with women's empowerment and women doing their own self-mastery. And we've come up with a little acronym called MELT, M-E-L-T. We say, melt away the stress. When you're facing stress, melt it away. M means meditate. I've been practicing meditation for 40 years. I learned it from the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, the guy who taught the Beatles, except not him, but from one of his staff members. And I have my mantra, and I can get relaxed instantly. And when I go down into that state for 10 or 15 minutes, I come out refreshed. learn to meditate. My wife takes people she's a hypnotherapist. She takes people deeper to the theta level of brain waves, where you get to the subconscious and you can put in new messages and you come out of that. I get a treatment from her every 2 weeks that I pay for because I want to be a client, not a husband. And it's wonderful what it does to release your creativity. It's powerful. So meditate. E, exercise. And this isn't about going for a workout. This means whenever you're feeling stressed, go for a walk. Go for a swim, climb the stairs, do something physically active, shake awake, go outside, just shake a little bit, come on back in, get something physical, get the juices going. So meditate, exercise, laugh. Go watch nothing better than a belly laugh to release stress. So laugh at yourself, have jokes on yourself, and also watch comedians. Go to your favorite comedians and just watch that on YouTube, right? So laugh. And then the final one is the Gary Keller one, train. Train to deal with stress. Gary trains himself. He'll go to family reunion and he'll go to 17, 18, 19 different meetings in a row, from the vision speech to a meeting with regional directors, to a meeting with top agents, to a meeting with top OPs and with team leaders. And every one of those meetings, he's expected to show up as the guru, as Gary, right? And he does it calmly and he does it ready. Why? Because he's prepared, right? So he's trained himself to deal with stress and stay calm in the chaos. And how many people saw the movie by National Geographic called Free Solo, about Alex Honnold, young 29-year-old guy who climbed the 3,000-foot sheer granite face of El Capitan in Yosemite National Park. He's a climber. And he did it on this day, filmed by a crew from National Geographic, and he did it without any protection, without any ropes or anything. He climbed in 4 hours. He climbed that 3,000-foot sheer granite face with just his fingers, his hands, his little climbing shoes, and a bag of chalk to keep his hands dry. And at any moment, if he lost a hold or a foot slipped, he was gone. I mean, gone. The guys videoing it who were climbers couldn't even look at some of the points where he had to reach out to a next hold, because they knew how risky it was. And when you talk to him, there's 2 lessons in it. He said, oh, I was prepared. He said, I've been working on that route for 10 years. I've done it with ropes. I knew every handhold, every foothold on that whole way up. And so he said, when I did it, it was like a walk in the park. I was just focused on what was coming next. But he said, the other thing is, I never think about consequences. I never do. I know there's a danger there, but that's not even on my mind. I don't even think of that. Whoa, don't even be attached to the consequences. Focus on the activity now. What a lesson there, right? So meditate, exercise, laugh, train, stay calm and focused, be a person of resilience. And the final one is enthusiasm. It's the God one. Entheos is Greek for the God within. God has built us to be. We have a natural energy. We see it with kids. Their curiosity drives them. Their imagination drives them. They want to be competent. They want to ride the bike. They get on the bike. They fall off. They cry. They get back on the bike. Why? They want to build their competence, and they're willing to take risks and do that. And they want to understand things. Why? We need to tie back into that inherent enthusiasm that God has put in us to go after life like an adventure, to play it like a game, to have fun with it, to learn new things, try new things, fail and get back up and do more things. We need to just tie into that force within us. My life is full of enthusiasm because I just love this adventure. Doesn't matter what's happening, it's going to be an adventure. And I love it. So we say, let that force, that God force, be with you. So light my fire: freedom, intention, resilience, enthusiasm, live in gratitude, be on purpose, stay calm and focused, and may the force be with you. And the final thing I just want to leave you with is three things to remember. And remember, you can get all these slides, dave@kw.com, and all those other documents that I promised you, right? So write that. Give me your 3 ahas. Here's things I want you to remember. First of all, life is a self-fulfilling prophecy. As you see it, so shall it be. What you envision is what you get. As Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're going to be right. So just get your mind right, because whatever you think about is what you're going to create, right? Life is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Number 2 is, don't be naive. There will be challenges. It will be tough. There's a wonderful book written by M. Scott Peck called The Road Less Traveled. And in it, the very first sentence of that book is, life is difficult. And the second sentence is, and when you acknowledge that and accept it, it gets a little easier. So life isn't easy. The Buddhists say life is suffering. Life it's not easy, right? And so there will be challenges, and you just take them on. My son gave me the greatest wisdom on this. As I was coming out of Alcoholics Anonymous, I was telling him about it, and how it felt so good to be sober and how I'd overcome that. And he said, it's something I'll never forget. He said, Dad, isn't it amazing? God gives us the bread of adversity and the water of affliction so that we can grow spiritually. I'll never forget that. What a piece of wisdom. He said, isn't it wonderful, Dad? God gives us the bread of adversity and the water of affliction so that we can grow spiritually. And I realized that's the game we're in. The reason there's all this adversity and difficulty and challenge is so we can grow. That's why we're here as spiritual beings, is to grow. And we're going to grow because we're challenged. So there will be challenges, take them on. It's the purpose of life. And then finally, just the final thought. I just want you to know this. Enjoy this journey. We play a great game. Real estate is a great sport. It's a competitive sport. It's a demanding sport. It's not easy. Play it strong, play it well. Enjoy the journey, and just remember this: you are the magic. And there we go. All right, so if anyone has any questions, one of two things. You can either chat them in, put them in the chat, and somebody on the team will ask me, or I'll read it. Thank you for the nice positive comments that are coming in. I appreciate that. I hope this was valuable to you. I had three purposes. One was to lay down the foundations of how to succeed in this demanding business, how to use the three sources that are there, MREA, MREI, and SHIFT. And then finally, the key steps to building mental toughness and resilience. So you're all welcome. Thank you for the comments. But if anyone has either a question or so someone says, what is my top 20%? Well, the thing is, I'm in my encore years. So this is a different game that I'm playing. Somebody asked me, a good friend of mine said, Dave, what are your three priorities? You talk about power of threes. This was about 10 years ago. And I said, curiosity, joy, and love. And that was the first three words came to mind. And they said, what do you mean? I said, well, I used to read things because I thought I had to. Now I only read things and expose things that I'm really curious about and I'm interested in. Number thing is, I used to do a lot of activities I thought because I should do them. Now I do them because they're inherently joyful. I only pick those. And then I used to think there were a lot of people I had to hang out with and put up with, and I don't do that anymore. I only hang out with people I love. So that became my three. So I would say, back in when I was in my productive days, it was having a daily plan. It was the 411 down to the day. All right, so I believe in the vehicles that Gary and I teach and develop. The 135, which is your overall plan, the 411, which is your on track, how to stay on track annually, monthly, and then week by week. And then I would take it down to the day. And I kind of lived off a thing that one of my mentors, Dr. Clifton C. Thorne, who was my boss when I was in one of my educational jobs, he said, Dave, the unplanned day is not worth living. And I went, whew, that's a little heavy. I don't know if I believe exactly that, but I will tell you this, that yeah, I planned every day. And here's the other thing I found about my attitude. See, I had to schedule an early meeting in the day. For some reason, when I first got up in the morning, if I didn't have something planned early, I could let myself get off track. And I'd kind of start thinking about things. I wouldn't have a sense of urgency, and I'd start feeling a little negative and maybe procrastinating. And I found if I planned something early in the day, a meeting or a podcast, or at the time a recorded thing or a writing session, and I had to get to work, then that I would get at it. I would just and then my mood would lift. Once I got at it, my mood would lift. So that was a thing that I had to manage my own attitude. And I'll add one other thought in this that I got from a consultant friend of mine. I just did a keynote speech for an event that he ran called the Impact Initiative. His name's Ralph Williams. And he said, Dave, people come into real estate for the freedom, the flexibility, and the promise of untold wealth. And he said, the problem is they take the freedom and the flexibility, so they never get the wealth. And that's one of the things that I would say to people is, it's important for you early in your day to get into your productive space. And if that's at the office or that's making phone calls, the earlier in the day you can get into your productivity habits, the more productive your whole day will be. So, did I see some questions in here, Andy? I mean, is there any other questions? I may have missed them.
Yeah, we've had a couple of questions.
Okay, ask them.
Okay, so just going back here a little bit.
Sure.
Well, one of the questions I asked that I was really wanting to hear from you on, what role, you're an incredible individual, Dave. I mean, on a professional and a personal level, and I think it's just been inspiring for a lot of people. What role has humility played in your life? Just curious. I've never had the chance to ask you that question.
When you're as good as I am, it's hard to be humble. Isn't that a name of a country western song? Gee, but it's hard to be humble. No, here's an interesting thing that I say to people. This is really an important point. In other words, I am a humble person. I believe in life there is a lot of room for humility, but no room for modesty. That's important. So humility, yeah, okay, others do it better. I could do it better. I make mistakes. I haven't got this all figured out. I'm humble, and I'm humble in the face of the power of the world and everything that goes on there. However, there is no room in life for modesty. It's important for me to assert what I want and who I am and the truth I have. And see, I think that it's important for agents to market themselves, to come out and say what it is they do, to have a sense of confidence about that, to assert their goals. I think that's very important. And, you know, humility can get overused and we create kind of a fake modesty. And I don't think that's integrity. Gary's not modest. Mo Anderson's not modest. She's humble, very humble. She was a wonderful, humble leader. Always gave credit to other people. I think that's one of the things. See, it's I think the real danger is when you get too wrapped up in yourself, right? You're too self-important, and you think you're the cause of everything. That's where the real danger zone is, that arrogance, that self-arrogance. And then other people would look at that and they don't want to be around it, right? So well, somebody asked an interesting question, which is, how do you time block your schedule when you have children? And I tell you what, I've had wonderful discussions. We need to bring my wife Gina in, because she had 5 children by the time she was 25. And she spent her whole life trying to figure out how to manage her own personal development, career, businesses she ran with raising 5 children. And I will tell you, I didn't have to face that. So I'm not a good mentor in that. But what she would say is, you have to teach them what you need. You have to teach them to be self-resilient. You have to give them tasks to do and reward them through it with encouragement. But the other thing you have to do, I had a woman tell me this, I guess it was now maybe 8 or 9 months ago. We were in the height of the COVID lockdown time. And she said, I had to negotiate for 3 days with my husband and my 2 children so that I could get private time 6 hours a day to work on my real estate, to get my computer up, to go to KW Connect, to do online transactions, to call, to Zoom with people. And she said, I had to have them understand that this was critical to the family. And so she said, we organized this, what I called productivity space, a little, virtually almost a closet, where I would go with my computer and I close the door, and on the door it would say, Mom is working to put a roof over our head, bread on the table, and a trip to Disneyland, right? So she had a little fun with it. but you have to teach others how to treat you, and you have to give your kids responsibility. That's what I know my wife said, that, you know, as the kids got older, and not a lot older, like in their maybe like 9, 10, or 11, everyone had a job to prepare a meal. In other words, one night a week was one of the children's had to prepare the meal. And she said, we had some pretty bad meals, you know, some pretty terrible meals. But I think that's it. And I think it's a gift. It's a gift for your children for two things. When they can see that you are counting on them and they have responsibilities and you're rewarding them for those responsibilities, and not just with allowances and money, but with recognition and thank yous. And then the second thing is that they get to hear you work. They get to hear you work. It's interesting how curious they are about what you do. Linda McKissick, Press McKissick, who is Linda McKissick's son, who was just a little boy when he was, you know, a toddler when she began in the business, but now he's a regional director for Keller Williams up in Ohio. And he is so articulate. And he said, I learned real estate from listening to my mom. Every day I got on the job training about real estate. And he said, now it's just ingrained in me because I got to hear mom. So don't let your kids watch you work. Let your kids see what it takes to work. Build in them an appreciation for a work ethic. A lot of people somehow have a mistaken idea that they need to make things easy for their children. And I think that's probably a mistake. We need to give them challenges. Now, you know, not harsh and not rigid and not just disciplinary, but we need to give them that sense of what they do matters.
Yep. We got about 5 minutes if anybody wants to put a question in. Dave, somebody had asked, what is your morning routine?
Well, it's interesting. It's different now because I just have to understand that my life, and that's one of the fun things that you get when you get into your encore years. Like, for example, from 2014 to 2017, for 3 straight years, I had no home. I called it Dave's homeless journey. I had no home. I had my Jeep Grand Cherokee, my 2 mountain bikes on the back, my golf clubs, and enough clothes and all that stuff. And I stayed at Airbnbs and with friends and all that stuff. And I traveled the country, went to all 48 contiguous states twice, at least twice, some more than that, like Minnesota. And I played 235 different golf courses, went to 70 different national parks and all of that. So that's what life looks like when you've kind of planned it out and gotten it to the point where now you can do things that are just purely for fun, although probably it wouldn't be a bad idea to give yourself some of that time and don't wait to do it as late in life as I did. So my life is different now, but I would tell you that what I find is I begin my morning with my own personal inspiration. I'm reading great books. My interests now are in a very interesting area. I just completed a series of podcasts, which you can go on to Spotify or Anthem or iTunes and get, called Dave Jenks Spiritual Wisdom, because I've done a lot of work at looking at spirituality combined with science, because I'm a scientist. And I have published a thing or did a podcast called The 7 Incarnations of God. And so that's part of my exploration now. And I'm reading a gentleman by the name of Stephen Myers, who is a high-level biologist who has a wonderful book out now called The Return of the God Hypothesis. And he is doing what I see happening, which is a lot of scientists saying there is more proof of a intelligent guide in this universe than there is that it happened by natural selection and just natural processes. So anyway, I digress, but that's where my interests are. And then I will do writing, and then I will prepare for doing these podcasts. I really have committed to reaching out and helping Keller Williams agents take their businesses to the highest level and doing it through these podcasts. And I'm really honored that Andy, you and Todd and the leadership team, have brought me here. Thank you.
Well, Dave, and I just have to ask you one last question in kind of wrapping this up that's appropriate for the time we're in, which is, what do you think is our greatest challenge And what do you think is our greatest opportunity as a company right now, Keller Williams, going forward?
Yeah, I think I think it still all comes down to the agent. Okay, so let's look at two different parts of it. The biggest challenge for the agent is building your database. It always is, it always will be, building your relationships so that when people think of real estate, they think of you. We're still at a point where 73 to 75% of people only talk to one agent when they list their property. And it's almost about the same for buyers. So you want to be the person that when they think of real estate, they think of you. Now, the other end of it is exactly what Keller Williams is doing, empowering people with command, creating the best real estate database that can be there with all the tools, all the marketing tools, all the messages, all the just listed, just sold cards, all the documents you would need to be a great marketer in your local area, that you do that. And then I would say as part of that, so it's a combination, and then I want to talk about Keller Williams going public. So I think that the fundamental game, again, is still local. It's still based on relationship, reputation, and trust. So the more you get your testimonials out there about why people trust you, and it's better that than that you got them the highest price or all that, but that's okay. But that they trusted you, you listened to them, you took care of things, they felt they were in good hands, right? That fiduciary idea. So you want to get that message out there, and you want to, and the reason it's a challenge because we get caught off in doing these kind of other things, you know, like social media, and we think, oh, we got to do videos and we got to do this. And there's a lot of things that are being put out there that are saying, oh, you'll be really successful if you do these things. And they've always been there, and they're always distractions. I mean, some of them maybe, you know, have a little bit of work, but mostly they're distractions. So let me go to the other final thing, and that is that right now there are so many other ventures, whether it's Compass or EXP or other things that are trying to come into the real estate space and saying they have a different game. They don't. The game isn't different. It isn't different. Keller Williams, here's the fundamental in Keller Williams. Number one is it's committed to the individual agent and their ability to market themselves under their brand and do well and give them all the tools to do that. Number two is agents keep most of the money. I've done the research over the last 2 years. In all of Keller Williams, of all the commissions earned in Keller Williams, 87.5% of the money stays with the agent. 87.5, almost 90% of the money, of the front end money, stays with the agent. Then only 2.4% of the total commissions earned goes to fund the national company and its regions. Here we are, number one company in the world, and yet that slim, a little margin is what this company runs on. And then our market centers are brilliant because they're getting about 10% of the total commissions, and they're holding their expenses at about 7%. And so we still are profitable and profit sharing 168 million to our agents. And the other thing to understand is while there's a lot of other companies trying to grow, and they're small, and we believe in competition, no one's adding more people on, as many people on as Keller Williams is. So we're still at the top of the game. Now, the final thing I just want to say, and I know we're over our time a little bit, Andy, hope that's okay. And that is Gary Keller is positioning this company to better serve the agent. So this whole thing with KWX and the leaders he's brought in for all of that, and none of those services, whether it's mortgage or insurance or iBuyer type things, none of those will be imposed on the agent. None will. It's not how Keller Williams works. But they will bring competitive advantage to the agents that choose to use them. And then the final thing is, one of the reasons I think that, and I don't know, I don't have any inside information. I'm just observing like everybody else, right? But I saw his message he sent out to everybody. He's positioning the company to go public for two reasons. One is to bring even more capital in to invest in the infrastructure of Keller Williams, the technology and all of that. That's not easy to do. Most other companies don't have the money, and they're losing money. The other is he really wants to give agents an opportunity for equity ownership in the parent company. right? They have it in the sense of the profit share system, but I think he sees it as a big opportunity for agents to also share in the investment opportunity of a public company.
Yep. Well, boy, Dave, gosh, you blow my mind every time I listen to you or spend time with you. So I just can't thank you enough. And I'm sure I speak for everybody who's been on this call.
And Heather just reminded us that on July 28th, we're doing Why List with Me. So we're going to do all of that fundamentals of how to build a powerful listing presentation on July 28th from 9 to 10:30. And she's got the Zoom link on there to register. So thank you, Heather, for making it happen.
And if anybody needs that information, just get with Heather. She's got it. And I guess I certainly speak collectively for everybody. We thank you, Dave, for your time. This has been invaluable, and really appreciate you taking an hour and a half of your time this morning to spend with us all. Just much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Bye-bye. Take care.
Take care.